The criminal justice system is crazy, inverted, it's warped, I tell you. I mention this because it was just 6 weeks ago I filmed a video that said, if you make this mistake in prison, you'll stay there longer. And I was mentioning, if you mention to a case manager you have a job, you might not get as much halfway house time because clearly you don't need as much time in the community to look for work. Well, what about before sentencing? What about as you're wondering how to spend your days as you inch towards sentencing? And of course you're here in part because you want to do all you can to get the shortest possible sentence and have a productive journey. And that's really the goal of White Collar Advice as we transition into this video. Can a job help lead to a shorter prison sentence? And it was like last week I finished a run and I picked up the phone and it was a very interesting individual in Ohio telling me that the only reason that I got 18 months in prison was because I went into protective custody and I had to cut him off. And I'm like, bud, my clients go to minimum security camps and low security prisons. I don't know about protective custody. I didn't go to protective custody. My clients don't go to protective custody. Even our clients that cooperate don't go to protective custody. Then he began mentioning some YouTube channels. I've seen After Prison Show. I think it's very funny. I've never heard of Wes Watson, never been to his channel, but apparently they cover subjects that I will never cover here on White Collar Advice because I didn't live it and I want to be authentic. So back to the point of this video, if you want to get the shortest sentence and then put the right actions in place every day, this video is for you. If not, that's okay too, as I told this gentleman who wanted me to cover subjects that I will never cover. Back to the idea of working. Should you work? Of course, but why? I'm going to put up a URL to characterletters.com. And if you go to characterletters.com, you can opt in for free to take our course on generating character reference letters. And in the first part of that course, I break down all the letters that were turned in to the judge on my behalf. I had 16 letters, only turned in 6. What Judge Wilson commented on most, what he discussed first and foremost, besides letters from my family, I didn't even turn in letters from my parents because of course they're going to say, Justin's a good young Jewish boy, made bad decisions, didn't understand, all the things parents are supposed to say. I didn't turn them in. Even letters from my friends, important, helpful, nothing was as important as the letters that came from my broker and my business partner, Sam Pompeo, who let me work with him for 3 years selling real estate before I got sentenced. That's crazy to hear, right? When I talk about white collar crime, people are stunned at how long these investigations can go on for. We've created this really cool timeline at White Collar Advice. I'll put up a link to it. I lost my job at UBS January 2005. I didn't surrender to prison until April 28th, 2008. That was a big gap. How did I begin to fill that gap? Besides eating a lot and filling my belly and putting on a good 30 plus pounds as a defendant and making bad choices like not taking the time to own it, letting my co-defendant cooperate against me, and he was positioning himself for a better outcome. I don't have a problem with him doing that. He had married, had 4 children. He was trying to get the shortest sentence. Good for him, I suppose. I made a lot of bad decisions, but one thing I did do well was work. The work was crucial because besides the money and paying lawyers and living, it helped me create a new record as a law-abiding citizen. Before this video, I spoke with a client, a physician in Florida, who was making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. And initially he mentioned in the call, should I be embarrassed or afraid to mention this? I'm working for Shipt. It's like an Instacart service where you deliver groceries. And I said, dude, all work is honorable. That's the most inspirational thing I've heard in a long time, that you're working at a job that is way beneath your skill set will be huge for you at sentencing. And I had to remind him and all of you why. He's not sitting at home all day lamenting and blaming others. He's working each and every day to create a new record as a law-abiding citizen. Hardly a week passes without a defendant saying, hey, my case was extended 3 or 6 months. Is that a good thing? And my response was, it depends. What do you do all day? Do you play video games or arcade games? Or what do you do? How do you spend your days? Are you productive? Are you building a new record? So part of the reason that I got 18 months despite guidelines that were measurably higher wasn't because of cooperation or going into protective custody, which is absurd in a minimum security camp. It's because I worked over a sustained period of time to create a new record that influenced Judge Wilson. And I know so because he commented on the letters that you can read at characterletters.com. The most impactful letter was from a client. I'm going to tell you why this is so relevant. The most impactful letter was from a client, a real estate client, who in this letter mentioned that I gave him advice that was in his best interest and it cost me a $75,000 commission. Why is this relevant? Let's go back to the Varsity Blues case and Felicity Huffman. Many people knock her 14 days in prison. In the Felicity Huffman college admissions case, Felicity had an opportunity to get her second daughter into school, right? She had done it with her first child. She could have done it again. She said, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm fine. I don't want to do it again. It showed that she understood her prior conduct was wrong. She didn't want to do it again. She stopped it. It showed that she was willing to change. In an experience where a client writes that advice that I gave him was in his interest and it cost me $70,000, $75,000 commission, it shows corrective behavior. Then the question comes, well, why do we need to send Justin or anyone to prison? Is it specific deterrence? Like literally you need to be in prison or else you are going to break the law? Of course not. It's then general deterrence, which can be a whole mitigation strategy under the idea that if Justin's in prison in California, it could deter a stockbroker on Wall Street from breaking the law. A lot of evidence that may not work, but it doesn't change the heart of the argument, which was working each and every day was crucial for me because I was able to show that I could live a law-abiding life and build a new record. So what are some takeaways for you? What's some practical advice for all of you? Find good friends, people who are willing to give you a chance. I was fortunate to have someone like Sam Pompeo believe in me, invite me to work with him, and defend me when other people were like, why are you letting this guy work with you? I just read about his case online. He's going to potentially go to prison. He defended me, but also the record I was beginning to create gave him ammunition to properly defend me. And then my broker, I'll never forget the day that I pled guilty, February 2007. I walked into his office. I said, this Department of Justice press release is coming out. I will go empty my office. There's too much brand risk for you in letting me work here. I'm going to prison. This is not great. He said, you've done great here for 2 years. Your clients love you. I love you. Keep working. Get back to your desk and let me manage this office. That was so huge at my sentencing. Now, so beyond trying to create and find relationships that you can leverage off of like I did with Sam, you may be thinking, I don't have those relationships. What can I do? You've got to create them. And we talk about in this free character reference course how you can begin to do that. Now, some of you may be thinking, Justin, I don't have a friend who will let me sell real estate with him for 3 years. Okay, fine. It doesn't mean you cannot create a new record by looking for work. I have a client in New Jersey. We're working on updating his resume together. And he's like, Justin, I put out like 400 applications. I'm like, good, document it. Everywhere you're applying, if you get rejected, we've got to demonstrate you can't get this job, but it's also a consequence of your conviction. We want to articulate to the court that is imprisonment really needed or longer than is necessary needed because of our client's conduct, he can't get a job or it's harder for him to get hired. All of this is part of the journey and why we want to document it. So if you're not in a position to work and you're trying, document that at least you're looking for work, filling out applications so then you can articulate that to a probation officer. You can articulate to a sentencing judge that you are looking for work every single day. If not, I've been to sentencing hearings. Remember, we've got 1,000 clients here. I've been to 1,000 sentencing hearings. I've been to sentencing hearings where the judge says, well, what do you do all day? 2 years, a year? What do you do all day? All work is honorable. So if it's not selling real estate or doing something that you may really want to do, looking for work, any work to begin is a huge part of your story. It's a huge part of your timeline. And I give such credit to my client in Florida who's working for Shipped, I guess it's called, delivering groceries, or a client of mine who went to Yale, whose sentencing judge also went to Yale, who with a great deal of humility drove for Uber and Lyft in New York. Guess what we did? We took those reviews from Uber and Lyft and we showed them to the sentencing judge to let him know that I'm working 18 hours a day to pay my bills, to pay back some restitution, to create a new record, Your Honor, as a law-abiding citizen. So that's how I'm going to wrap it up. While in prison, it may not be in your interest to say that you have a job because it may not lead to as much halfway house time. Before you get sentenced, if you're looking to get the shortest sentence, if you want to demonstrate that you could become better, I beg you, I urge you, as best I possibly can, to look for work, to begin working, which will enable you to demonstrate through your own words and efforts, which is all we're about here, White Collar Advice. It will enable you to demonstrate that you can live a law-abiding life and you're not sitting at home all day playing video games lamenting over the unfairness that is this case, but rather you're working to create a new record. So go to characterletters.com. The course is free. You're going to get a breakdown of why my letters were so excellent, and Judge Wilson commented on every single one of them, and it's the reason I went from 5 years to 3 years to 18 months. The biggest and best thing I did wasn't protective custody, whatever that even means. It was work. work for that 2.5 years before I got sentenced, even on days I didn't want to, and I was stressed and angry and fat and miserable and bloated about my case. I still managed to get up and take listings and sell real estate and do right by my clients, and that record was huge. Go work, go look for it, go document it, and if you can do that, you're going to get a shorter sentence, and you're going to live with a great deal of dignity along the way, because you're going to be productive and you're going to be creating, you're going to be developing new skills and growing your network. Again, those are things we talk about in this free course at characterletters.com. Thank you for letting our team come into your home to educate and inform, hopefully inspire you on steps that you can put in place to get the best possible outcome. Thank you. Subscribe, like if you like it. Back soon. Bye-bye.